The word dandy was first used in Britain in the 1700s to describe a man who gave exaggerated attention to personal appearance. Of course, today we use all sorts of other words, but that's not for here. The dandy is also the name of a pretty dandy cocktail, and that's what we're making today, so stick around.
If you're a theater fan who loves a great cocktail, click that subscribe button because Broadway Barfly is the channel for you.
Hello folks, Rob Dreemeyer here. Welcome to Broadway Barfly. In a previous video, I made a cocktail called The Kiss, which is a modern cocktail, but sort of a mashup of two old classics, the Martinez and the Dubonnet cocktail. After I finished that video, I started wondering, I wonder what else we could do with Dubonnet. And it didn't take me too long to stumble upon the Dandy, which really piqued my interest. The Dandy comes from the 1930 Savoy Cocktail Book by Harry Craddock. If you follow the channel, you'll know I've mentioned the Savoy Cocktail Book many times. It's considered a mixology Bible. I often think I should just work my way through it cocktail by cocktail, but then I remember how much I love my liver. I think the best way to describe the Dandy is a Manhattan made with Dubonnet instead of sweet vermouth. There are also bitters, of course, and there's a little bit of Cointreau added. So the end result is a cocktail that's sweeter than your traditional Manhattan, but the Dubonnet does deliver a nice little bitter note as well. Now, I didn't find any particular backstory for this cocktail, but I did do some fascinating reading on the history of the dandy and dandyism. As I said at the beginning of the video, the word comes from Britain in the 1700s, where it was used to describe a man who was very well dressed and impeccably groomed. Now, I knew that's what the word meant, but what I didn't know is that it came from a political movement that opposed, of all things, equality. At that time in Britain, there were people who didn't like being considered equal to everyone else. So by dressing up and overly grooming themselves, they could display their elitism. Now, as you would expect, this was popular in the aristocracy, but it was also a way for ordinary people to build these sort of aristocratic personas for themselves. Over time, once the public caught on, the term dandy became sort of a pejorative, and that was certainly the case when the Brits started using it here in North America. The most obvious example is the song Yankee Doodle. Now, you probably all know the words to that song, but have you ever really thought about them? Because it's just one insult after another. Don't believe me? I'll break it down for you. So right off the bat, you have Yankee Doodle, which in and of itself was derogatory. It's what the British soldiers called the colonists and would be sort of akin to calling someone a redneck today. So you have this Yankee Doodle riding to town on a pony. Not a horse, but a pony. And he has a feather stuck in his cap and he calls it macaroni. And what macaroni is referring to is macaroni fashion, which would have included wearing ornate powdered wigs. So what the beginning of this song is doing is creating this really satirical picture of someone with delusions of grandeur. Someone who sees themselves as an impeccably dressed aristocrat riding to town on a great steed, when in fact they're a redneck on a pony with a feather stuck in their cap. Paints a really different picture, doesn't it? And then the chorus of the song just twists the knife even further with its mockery. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step and with the girls be handy, as if to say, keep it up, Mr. Ladies Man. Well, Americans are not fazed by that kind of mockery, and over time we just decided to own it. A little over 100 years later, George M. Cohan wrote a song saying, I am a Yankee Doodle dandy, wearing it as a badge of patriotism. I did a whole video where I talked about George M. Cohan and made a Yankee Doodle cocktail. If you haven't already seen it, check it out. You might enjoy it. So I have no idea if any of this stuff has anything to do with a dandy cocktail, but it is kind of interesting that we have a cocktail made with American rye and French wine published in a British cocktail book. But enough of that. Let's just get down to business and make one. And there we have a pretty dandy cocktail. Until the next time, cheers!
If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends? Feel free to leave your comments and click that subscribe button because there's a lot more Broadway Barfly to come.